Today I want to talk about healing the emotional pain that comes on top of the chronic and long-term health conditions that we might suffer from. So I've noticed I've recently, the last few years and at the end of last year in particular, had serious chronic health issues that have really got in the way of my life. And I noticed there's such powerful fight or flight responses, or shutdown responses, or helplessness and rage and fear and stuckness. There's so many emotional responses that we have that are a burden on top of the actual, issue or health condition that we have that we've got to deal with as well. And not many people talk about this, and it can be so helpful. It makes it a lot easier if we know how to deal with the emotional side of these conditions, as well as just dealing with the condition itself. Or at least, maybe further down the line when we're feeling a little bit better, we can start to deal with the essentially like the trauma that we've received because we've gone through such intense health-related experiences. So, in many cases, right, we're afraid maybe of eating certain things that have triggered our health condition, or going to certain places that might trigger that health condition. We're left, there's a lot of frustration that we have at life, a lot of resentment we can have at our situation. There are so many ways that these powerful emotions can affect us for many, many years, because if we don't deal with these emotions, they stay with us. That resentment, that fear, that rage, that helplessness, that stays in our system. Even if we get better health-wise, that's still there. It's going to be unconsciously impacting our life for many years until we deal with it. So the core reason this is so important is because when you have a chronic health condition, it's so threatening to you could say your identity, or just the way you want to live life on your terms, right? It just pulls the rug out from under you. You wanna be able to go out and live your life, engage with life, be yourself fully. And the door is slammed in your face. It's like, no, you're going to spend the next few days or weeks or however long, in bed or whatever it is. I use in bed a lot. That was kind of what happened to me, is a lot of brain fog and mast cell madness that just kind of rendered me dysfunctional. I'm sure there are many, many different situations. So just kind of apply what I'm saying here to your situation, because it's going to be a little bit through the lens of what I experienced somewhat inevitably. But the basic principles apply. But essentially that door is slammed in your face and you can't go and do those things. And it feels like, everyone else around you can go and do what they want to. They have this capability, and you're essentially sort of handicapped in this sense by this condition that you have to manage with. Plus there's often we don't have much energy. And a lot of that energy has to go towards managing those symptoms day by day, week by week, or getting online and finding different cures, reading up on the condition and trying to learn about it, how we can manage it, trying new things out. And that's an incredible frustration as well. It's like what little energy you do have can't be spent towards things you want to enjoy doing. It has to be doing research into your condition. Plus there's all the money, thousands and thousands of pounds I've spent. I know people have spent tens of thousands on different naturopaths and therapists and whatever else. And that creates survival stress in your body. Fundamentally all these things, the money it costs, the time it costs, the lack of energy, the inability to engage with life and be yourself, it feels deeply, deeply threatening to your nervous system, to your psychological identity, your sense of who you are. You're like, I'm this person, I've got all these ideas, all these ways I want to live life, and I can't do it. That means I'm not that person. And so you get this is all so attacking really deep parts of ourselves. And so we feel really threatened, and then we get massive responses from the nervous system. Either a really big, it can be a really big shutdown, a sense of feeling defeated and helpless on the one end, or it can be going into sort of fight or flight, sympathetic activation of rage and frustration. Or these are what comes up at least. But what you find, and this is what's so important, is that there's all this helplessness and shutdown and this rage, but we tend to just numb out to all of it because dealing with the health situation is so intense that we don't have capacity to deal with these emotions, these nervous system responses. So we tend to just numb out to them and just suppress them and push them down. Often we don't even know that they're there. And this is adding an extra burden of stress to your already stressful situation. And so what I would want to get across here is that these emotions are here. You know, if you're dealing with something like this, you are having powerful, deep emotions about what's going on for you, but you're maybe not fully aware that they're there or the way that they're impacting you. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You know, in the moment, you may need to numb out to those emotions in order to deal with your immediate health circumstances. But if we don't eventually deal with them, we then spend the rest of our lives with this deep sense of defeat and resignation with us, that shutdown response, or that rage and frustration and resentment. We're carrying these for the rest of our lives, and they'll influence you and lead to you being a less authentic, more fragmented, heavier kind of person in the world. So what's the steps towards going towards this? Essentially, it's one of allowance. In those moments when you feel really defeated, like you don't know what to do, you've turned over every stone, it's important to actually just allow that feeling, to let yourself sit there. And this can feel a little unsafe, a little threatening, and you may need support from a friend or, a therapist, a guide of some kind. But it's to really just step into that place of despair, that circle of defeat, and let it be true. Let yourself just sink into that. Because what that is a full allowing of that whole emotion, that whole response from your body. And in the allowing, it stays for a while, but when you fully allow it, it then starts to relax and dissolve, and then transforms into a bit more of a sense of motivation or what would be the word? Perhaps something in the direction of courage. It's like how, when you cry and you just feel better afterwards. It doesn't last forever. If you really let yourself cry and sob, it passes through. This sense of helplessness, confusion, not knowing, trappedness, this is the same. If you really allow that, sit right in the heart of that. It doesn't mean you are trapped. It doesn't mean you are helpless. You're just feeling that way. There's a distinction. There's a distinction between being helpless and feeling helpless. If you just feel helpless for a while, it moves through, and in that metabolization of that emotion, you are then given a bit more capacity. The same goes for the rage and the frustration, the resentment. Like, just fully allowing yourself to be really pissed off at your situation. Just like, I fucking hate this. I can't stand this. It's killing me. I can't deal with another week of being in bed and not being able to do anything to live my life. And the key is staying with the felt sense of the body. There's a certain extent to which you need to let it speak. The core of it, though, is really feeling the frustration in your body. It's like, "Argh! Argh!" Or a really good one is pressing against a wall and letting that feeling come out. Just really connecting to that energy within you, that emotional energy that wants to come up and be expressed and be felt. And as you let that rage come up and be felt and expressed, you will feel better. It'll again move through in the same way and leave you with a bit more of a sense of strength in the aftermath. Now, I'm going through this very quickly. I've got many other videos on how to feel your feelings, literally titled that, or the nuances of what it means to feel a feeling. There's a good one that would be important here. That's what's the difference between acting out an emotion and feeling an emotion. So here you might be tempted to act out your sense of despair and rage, which have been putting that pain on other people, or somehow putting that pain on yourself, causing harm to yourself and others, by expressing it in an unconscious, uncontrolled way. Essentially, that's what that means. You want to express those emotions in a really conscious and controlled way. You want to feel them with that sense of consciousness and control. And that's what will heal you more deeply. So it's really just about fully allowing yourself to sit in those places of despair and rage. I have an example. I remember at the end of last year, I just text my friend as like, I'm at the end of my tether. I don't know what to do. Can you please come round? I'm at my wit's end here. Excuse me. And my friend, she came round and she just held me, and I just cried and cried and cried. just fully allowing the sense of like, I can't do it anymore. I don't know where to turn. There's nothing I can do. I don't know when it's going to end. Just hold me. And she did. And it was beautiful. And then I just fell asleep and she made me some food. But that was a turning point. It was a turning point. I felt like I had a bit more capacity to then keep going the next day, because I metabolized all this, emotional pain and stress, and my body was spending even more energy holding all that stress in, holding in all that despair, holding in all that rage. Right? This is really what it's about. The body has to deal with, do an extra task of holding in all this pain. So if you can relax into it, open up to it, let yourself feel the despair, the hurt, the frustration, the resentment, that lightens your load paradoxically, and actually makes it easier, gives you more space and energy and strength to deal with the health condition that you're facing. Now, people might object, this is the final point, there might be but surely if I allow that sense of defeat, won't I then be defeated? What's the point of getting angry at my situation? That's not going to add anything. And this is a slight misunderstanding, actually, because again, there's a separation between feeling defeated and actually being defeated. If you feel the sense of defeat, it eventually actually moves through, and you no longer feel defeated. You aren't defeated. There's more space for energy to come and meet the challenge. Similarly, with the resentment of your situation, it's not productive to act out, to lash out at your situation, just to smash stuff in your room and get really passive aggressive with your mum or your spouse or whatever it is. No, this isn't helpful. But to consciously just acknowledge and feel and just know, okay, I'm angry, I'm resentful of this situation. It's like, grrr, I hate it. And doing it in a really conscious way, that actually, again, helps it to move through and dissolve and integrate, and you feel lighter and more capable afterwards. So there's just a big difference between the consciously feeling these feelings and sort of languishing in them or actually being defeated. So I work with people one-on-one to help them with their this kind of emotional work. So if you want some support with this, please reach out, and I'll see you later.